Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Temple Within Radio and Media Network. This is Denise Iwana Francisco, and I am so excited. Wherever you happen to be around Grandmother Earth this morning, you're really going to like this show. It's called Spirit of the Wild, and it's hosted by Amber Covell, who's very dear to me and near to me, and so is her work at Soul Shine Rehab Center, Wildlife Center here in the Mitten State of Michigan. Good morning, Amber.
Hello, Denise.
How are you?
I'm all right this morning, and you?
Well, I'm doing really well, and I'm so happy that you're here on your new show this morning to talk about wildlife and to talk about what it is to be a wildlife rehabilitator. Let's start out by telling everybody what you've been doing for the past couple of hours in the day in life of someone who does your work.
You know, it changes every day. So somebody recently asked me, like, well, what do you do every day? I'm like, well, there's not really a good answer for that. So today, this morning started out a little crazy. Yesterday, I was super excited. We had a head trauma raccoon I had him for about a week, and he had a full recovery and was able to be released yesterday. And within 2 hours of that raccoon being released, I had another one come in who is also a potential head trauma case. He was found on the side of the road, and the issue now is, so I posted a video of him last night, and he has this very calm demeanor about him. And he's kind of shifted back into almost a very young raccoon. He sits there, excuse me, he sits there and plays in his water and touches his feet, and he has the demeanor of a baby raccoon again, which kind of makes you think, okay, this could be a head trauma case.
Wow.
But now my concern is that there is always that potential of him having the distemper virus, which is an awful, awful, awful disease. And so this morning I have been up since about 6:45 and researching distemper and talking to other rehabbers about their thoughts of him, uploading videos of him, and every day is just very different.
Yeah.
Very busy.
So, to begin with, for those that don't know you, I've known you for several years, and perhaps there are people who don't understand exactly who you are, where you came from. So I'd like to begin, if we could, but first of all, letting everybody know that Amber gave up, what most people would consider a dream job in the banking industry here in West Michigan for a global company. She gave it up to pursue her passion of being a wildlife rehabilitator. She believes so strongly in this work. Amber, who are you? Where did you come from? And when did you know that you were in love with animals and they were in love with you?
Well, I grew up here in Western Michigan, and I grew up in a household where my baby pictures are with a golden retriever, a beagle, and a skunk. So right then and there, I think that kind of sets your path. I was very fortunate to have parents that not only allowed me to have the animals in which I wanted to have in my life, but they too had a love for animals and enjoyed having them around. My entire childhood, we were the place that people would call if they found something that was injured, orphaned, abandoned, and the whole house was filled with a variety of little critters. And I'm so thankful for that childhood that I had, because I think it's helped me become who I am today. So as a kid, when you have a love for animals, people naturally throw out, oh, so you want to be a veterinarian when you're older. And that, for the longest time, was really the only job that I knew of. Granted, in the animal world, it is one of the only jobs where you're going to be paid for what you do. So my whole life, I was on the mission of being a veterinarian, although I am not someone who enjoys school, and 8 to 12 years of school, and $200,000 in debt did not really sound that appetizing to me. So, Denise, I had to laugh because just recently, when I was a kid, they wrote, what did you want to do when you grew up? And I was probably 3rd grade when I wrote this, and my number one thing that I wrote was animal rescuer.
Aww.
And It kind of makes me laugh now because the rescuer was completely spelled wrong. There was a Q in it. It was butchered. But
It was the French form of rescuer.
Right, exactly. It was fancy. So I had to laugh. It made me smile when I recently found that because it was kind of like, all right, I'm on the path that I had set out even at a young age, and not really knowing what it is that I wanted to do. Even as a kid, my girlfriend and I growing up, my neighbor friend and I, we had a little group called Wildlife. And what we did every day was studied wildlife. We had all of the little National Geographic books and Reader's Digest books, and we would dive into those and learn all about the species in the area, and we'd go out in the woods and we'd try to find these animals, and it was just something I was always very passionate about. And I'm not sure why wildlife was my interest at such a young age, but I'm so thankful now that my birthday's next week. I'll be 30, and I'm so thankful now that I've touched back into that. And I'm like, all right, Amber, you need to do what you were put here to do.
Yeah.
And it was very scary making that transition. It was very scary, and I think to a lot of people, I may have just lost my mind.
Well, sure. Right. The certainty of having a paycheck and benefits every week versus following, the way that your soul has called you to work on the earth while you're here can be really scary for a lot of people. I'm curious about, what is it about animals that would draw you away from being in that very nice corporate position with lots of surety to a place of walking, in the balance of, will there be enough to feed all of the animals, let alone yourself?
I think that at some point you just have to have a leap of faith. And I knew going into this that I had family and friends and fellow animal lovers that as soon as I had come out and told people what I was going to do, I was amazed at how many people had said to me they weren't surprised. Although it was scary, they weren't surprised by it. And when I did that, I thought to myself, okay, I have a support system. It's not going to be easy. But I feel as though with animals especially, there's sometimes a missing link in the world. So we think of, let me track down a skunk right now who escaped. I think sometimes when the animals, that especially wildlife, we have people who study them, we have scientists who are involved in them, we have conservation officers, but as far as the nitty-gritty goes, the caring for especially the orphans and the injured, which oftentimes are injured and orphaned because of humans, I just felt there needed to be somebody who stepped forward, and that was something I was always extremely passionate about. And for a long time I felt, okay, this is what I'm doing for them, but in all reality, they give back to me just as much. I mean, it's amazing to find something that makes you feel like this is my purpose. That in itself is just so, it's such an amazing feeling. Such an amazing feeling.
Well, yeah. And, I've seen you with the animals. Amber happens to be my son's half side, as they say in Native America. I refer to her as my daughter-in-law. And so I've seen how your place has transformed, but I've always seen your love of animals. And I've always seen the love that the animals have for you. I'll never forget the first time coming out after you received Miko. Out at the rehab center, and all of a sudden she was literally wrapped around your leg, crawling up your body like you had been long lost friends. And I had to think to myself, certainly this must be the story of Amber's life with the way that animals also feel about her. Do you feel that animals understand when somebody is a quote unquote a safe person or somebody who also loves animals?
Yes. I do, and now that I'm older, it's a little bit easier to comprehend that. As a child, I think I took that more for granted. It was just so natural. I was able to walk up to feral cats. I was able to be around farm animals that were maybe more skittish oftentimes, and when I'd come around them, they would just naturally start to approach. And as a child, I just kind of took that for granted. I thought that was normal. Throughout time, I'm starting to realize that's not the case. Mm-hmm. You do definitely still have to have your guard up, especially with working with wildlife. I mean, raccoons in general, they're like little bears. They are feisty little buggers, and that's a big reason for why a lot of rehabilitators do not work with raccoons. They're extremely smart. They're naughty. They can be quite dangerous if you don't know how to handle them. And then we have Miko, who will most likely be a resident raccoon. She's far too friendly. She's not afraid of people. So the most humane thing for Miko, especially since she enjoys being in captivity, is to keep her as an education animal. If she was wild and I could release her, I would love that for her. I would love for her to be back in the wild where she belongs. But in order to allow her to live longer, she almost needs to stay in captivity because she's not afraid of people. And you can't just have a wild raccoon walk up to somebody who's out on a hike.
Right.
She's going to get herself killed if she does that. So Miko, I think I can use as an education animal and be able to show people raccoons up close and the soft side of them too, while also educating them about how the species is and what they're great for, and allow people to see a side that they wouldn't normally have. I think there's a major misunderstanding when it comes to wildlife. People, they don't really think of things until they show up on their doorstep. So a lot of the animals that have come in so far, that's probably one of my favorite things actually so far that I've witnessed is the people who have called me, who have found an injured animal, an orphaned animal. They come from all walks of life. And that in itself has just been an awesome experience because you can't judge a book by its cover, and I was raised that way. But it's completely different when somebody finds something when they're, it's an injured or orphaned animal. It shows up, and I could honestly write a book about some of the people I've met so far. They have this soft side that creeps in, and I had this really big trucker guy recently. He was like 6'7", big beard, and he met me, and he had this little tiny possum. He was like, I was just driving, and I happened to see it on the side of the road, so I thought I would stop and save it. And I was like, oh, you're just such a big man. And it was just so sweet. He had this little like twinkle in his eye when he held this little baby possum, and it just made my day. It's things like that make me melt, and it's awesome to witness other people who have this appreciation for animals that they oftentimes wouldn't even think about.
Right. Well, I'm curious about something. When we look into the eyes of an animal, everybody who knows me knows I love animals. I am one of those people. And because I believe that they are beautiful beings with feelings and thoughts and love for their families, I'm curious, Amber, when you are doing your work rehabbing or helping orphaned animals, to get a good start on life where perhaps they would have just passed from starvation, do you feel as though they are also grateful for what you're providing them? What's the sense from the animals when you're treating them?
Initially, they come in and there's a sense of fear, and as there should be. We want the wild animals to, for the most part, stay away from people just for their own safety. So when they first come in, there is this sense of fear. They want to stay away. And then over time, they seem to just have a calmness about them. So I would say that I do believe the animals are able to pick up on energy. So when I walk into the rehab cabin and I'm greeted with all these little faces, I think that they are very much aware of who I am as their little foster mom, and I do believe that there is a sense of connection there with them. I think that they do have a sense of, okay, you're here to take care of me, and I don't know if upon release, if that's something that sticks around for them. I'm not sure. I would like to think so. But as far as when they're here, I think that if they didn't have a sense of realizing who I am and what I'm there for and calming them down, I would say I'd have a lot more scars on me and scabs and scrapes and bites, and I don't.
Yeah, yeah. Because it really is everybody. I mean, to watch her in action is really amazing. I would never myself think to, just pick up a possum or pick up a raccoon or an owl or any of the other critters that find their way to Amber's place. Catherine down in Texas is saying, what a big teddy bear of a man, with a big smiley face. And we were discussing about the fact that it was a tough decision for you to do this. Why do you think it's important for us as human beings to pay attention to the need of animals?
Well, first of all, I think that they can teach us things. So, as humans, we are so wrapped up in the hustle and bustle of life. And animals don't really have that. They wake up and they're like, okay, well, I'm going to eat today and I'm going to go find something to play with. And I think if we can sit back and just watch them, and I've talked to other people who maybe they're bird watchers or they're squirrel watchers, or they watch the animals in their backyard. And if we as people could sit back and view things in a third person and watch the nature around us, I think that it would really benefit humankind. And that's because I watch the animals that are in my own yard and even in my own house. We have domestics here too, and I'm so blessed that all the animals here get along. I mean, you've witnessed it, the dog, the cat, the skunks. When the ferret was still here, they all just wandered around together and they accepted each other. And Conan, he's almost 11 years old. That's my pit bull baby, and whenever a new animal comes in, he's like, hey, you live here too. The water dish is in the kitchen. This is the couch. My name's Conan. And they're just so accepting of each other. And I think humans just could really learn from that and benefit from it. And there's a simpleness that comes along with that too. So, the raccoons, I was watching them the other day, and they just sit there and they're playing with their sticks or whatever, their ball, their rock, whatever they have, and they're happy. And I feel people don't have that as much. We're so busy with, okay, what can I get next? What can I accomplish next? What's going to be mine? And along with that, material items, and animals don't have that. And their lives are just complete.
They teach us a lot about simplicity and finding joy in simple things that are right there in front of us.
Right.
And they also teach us about playfulness. One of the things that I've noticed is that when I'm out there, no matter how injured or what their story was in getting to you, the amount of joy there at Soulshine is astounding. The animals are happy. They are healthy, even as they are mending their bones or their whatever injury they may have, or just because they're teeny weeny and they had no one to love them until they could do it on their own. There's so much joy, and they do find happiness in the simple things. And it's so amazing to watch the possums be cool with the squirrels and the squirrels be great with the raccoons. And, Conan being out there, and you have domesticated skunks in your home. And everyone does seem to get along, and they seem to get along just by being in one another's company. What a beautiful lesson.
Absolutely.
They're not busy
I love it.
texting.
I absolutely love it.
Right?
I love waking up every day and being surrounded by the things that make me happy, and taking the plunge in which I did. As terrifying as that was, and it continues to be. I founded the nonprofit in October of 2017, so we're at our one year anniversary of being a nonprofit.
Aww.
And I officially became licensed with the state of Michigan to rehabilitate wildlife in July. So in the 3 months that we've been open, I've had 70 animals come through so far.
Wow.
And it's been such an awarding experience. Now, don't get me wrong, it has been heart-wrenching at times, too.
Right.
Unfortunately, in wildlife rehabilitation, I want to say the national average is around, I want to say it's in the 40% range of the animals that do not make it. So by the time they get here, they're very sick, or they've been without their mom for a long period of time, and it's constant nursing. I mean, in all reality, that's kind of what I do. I'm a wildlife nurse. Mm-hmm. and along with that, there can be a lot of heartache. There's a lot of frustration, especially when an animal comes in and it's in the state that it's in because of humans. That's really tough.
Yeah.
But then there are success cases, like the raccoon that was released yesterday. Mm-hmm. And that's my reminder of, okay, this is why I do it. That raccoon ran back out into the wild and is free now, and that is such an awesome experience. It's so gratifying.
I
think that's what I ran into with my job. I didn't, as much as the comfort as what I had in having a constant paycheck, and I had worked my way up the corporate ladder and had become quite successful in the bank I was at, it wasn't gratifying, and I needed to make that change.
Right. There is also a misnomer, Amber, about how you receive monies. You don't receive monies from the state of Michigan. You don't receive money from federal grants. You receive money to help these innocent little beings by raising funds.
Yep.
Now, if somebody is listening, wherever they happen to be listening to you right now, and they would like to get a hold of you, where is a great place for them to find you?
So right now, we did just pay for the URL, so the website will be up and running here soon. In the meantime, we do have a Facebook page. You can find it Soulshine Wildlife Center right on Facebook, and there is a donate button there too. Otherwise, and on there we have the address listed. It's a P.O. box. That's a good way to. If you want to send anything, you're welcome to send it to that P.O. box. My phone number is on there as well, and I love when people reach out, and if they want to call or text that number, they're welcome to. I've had people from all over the country actually reach out for random things. Sometimes it's just, I have a pet skunk, and I see you have skunks. Can you help me with this question? Or right. I had somebody in Tennessee recently question about raccoons. They knew I did raccoon rehabilitation. So even things like that, I'm welcome. I'm willing to talk to people. I am a one-person show right now, though. So unfortunately, that means I'm pretty stretched. So
exactly.
Sometimes
Amber,
it takes me a minute to get back to people.
Mm-hmm. Do you know right offhand what your P.O. Box number? I'm typing it into the radio show.
Yep. It's P.O. Box 354.
Okay.
And that's Sparta, Michigan 49345.
And that is in the United States for those of you
Correct.
that are listening right now from out of the States. So as we wrap up today, I'm on at 10 o'clock this morning, but what would you have everyone know about, in our humanness, we sometimes forget that we're not the only ones here. Sometimes we forget that this beautiful grandmother Earth is also inhabited by the four-legged and the winged ones and the creepy crawlers. We can forget that. How important are they to the balance of life for all of us, in your mind?
Well, I think that they help. So even, recently I did a video about squirrels for a third grade class and researching a little bit before I did this video, which was really exciting for me.
It's adorable.
I had read squirrels are natural forest planters. They bury acorns, they bury different nuts from trees, and they help replenish the forest. And I think sometimes we often overlook that. Mm-hmm. And that's just using squirrels as the example, but I feel all of the animals play an important part in our ecosystem. And if we would just take the time and do yourself a favor, look outside today, look out the window, and if you have birds in your area, squirrels in your area, whatever wildlife you have around, take the time to sit there and watch them. Because I can pretty much guarantee you're going to get a laugh out of it. They're funny. They're especially squirrels. They're so neurotic.
Uh-huh.
And if you take the time to really sit back and watch them, I think that in itself is a form of meditation. It really is. And I hope that people do that. I think that animals are so crucial part of who we are as people, and again, oftentimes overlooked. And if we would take that time to really sit back and observe, I think we as people would be much happier.
I couldn't agree. And I didn't know that about squirrels. And I think that also explains why I ended up with acorn squash in a garden that has nothing to do with anything. Because I forgot about the fact that birds and squirrels will carry seeds around. Todd and I were looking at this patch of squash growing up in the middle of our lavender. And I think that you just solved, that question that we've been having about how did that even happen?
Oh, I have to laugh because my squirrels here in the raccoon enclosure, the pre-release enclosure, I've been finding walnuts in there. I'm like, how is this even happening? And then I witnessed squirrels were going up on top of the raccoon enclosure, and they were dropping them down. and then the raccoons were sitting there just kind of playing with them. They were dipping them in the water, and it turned into like a little game. I was like, I need to get a trail cam out here and watch what is going on.
There's no doubt about it. Oh, goodness. Well, everyone, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for joining us in the archives after this week. This show will be available at Google Play as a podcast, as well as those of you that like Apple devices. This will also be a podcast via iTunes and, of course, on Spreaker and Deezer and YouTube. So wherever you need to find her, she will be around to learn more about animals in the coming months and in the coming years. But take a visit out on Facebook. What is going to be the name of your website when it is done, Amber?
It will be soulshinewildlife.org.
soulshinewildlife.org, everybody, coming in the future. Amber, with that, thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for being there for the animals and teaching us about just how much we need them, even if we've forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for hosting this. I truly appreciate it.
And she will be back, everyone. She's a busy woman, so we will have her back as often as she is able. With that, everybody, have a beautiful day and get out there and shine. Blessings be, everyone.